Hey guys, it's been more than a minute. They say I was fighting off a cold. Um, had a very masculine voice there for a while, which was fabulous. I'm mostly over it. Um, but I mean, we're going into allergy season now here in Texas. We fondly call it the pollen season. Um, so yeah, lots and lots of pollen going on right now. But I thought I would come back. Fabulous mug from my mom, who is Christian but loves the fact that I'm a witch. But it says, "You say witch like it's a bad thing." Um, the last time we drove up to Canada to see family, when we stopped in Kansas, there I have another mug that says "Property of the Wicked Witch." That again, my mom bought for me because we both see a lot of humor in that stuff. But anyways, total tangent there. Um, in one of my groups, one of my friends brought up a question that A, I hadn't thought of, and B, I haven't heard anyone else ask it. So I thought that would be a really good topic to kind of delve into in this video. But the question was, has your belief system changed? And then following up to that is, if you have completely switched religions, what traditions have you brought with you? Uh, and yeah, I hadn't really stopped and thought about my personal spiritual evolution. And I think that is something that I should be reflecting on, that I should probably delve into that a bit more. But I was raised uh, Christian, specifically Southern Baptist. Lots of fun there. They really enjoyed this mouthy woman who did not know her place a whole lot. But also Methodist, which was a significantly more mellow. Um, and I tried really hard to be a good Christian. So I've read the Bible cover to cover 5 times now, I believe, because again, I tried really hard to be a Christian. Um, but yeah, the pastors were not very receptive to the questions I would bring up. Because again, I think it's a quote in Matthews or Timothy. I can't remember where it is, but basically, the woman is supposed to be silent in church because her husband will explain it all to her if she needs it clarified. Um, yeah, I come from a very long line of extremely independent, strong women, and I swear it gets stronger every generation, which might be one of the reasons why I'm not having kids, because oh my god, I couldn't handle a little one of me. That's probably going to be stronger. Um, yeah, lots of blessings to my mom for letting me survive, because I know I was quite the challenge. But yeah, so any traditions I have brought with me from Christianity, um, I guess it was more of a pushback to Christianity. So, I was basically told that um, the Word of God would be explained by a man and that I should not question that. I question everything, and I don't question to be an asshole unless it's deserved. Most of the time, I genuinely just want to understand and be like, hey, I found these two conflicting stories. Can you explain to me how it works? Um, but instead, it was seen more of I was challenging church authority and I was challenging the word of God, and yeah, that does not set well with those individuals. Um, I also don't believe that there's only one God. Um, yeah, there are demons. I will point that out. There are demons out there. I personally don't work with any of them. I did previously work with Lucifer as the liberator, as the chain breaker. Um, but again, I don't work with a whole lot of male entities. And so for me, most of the time, the male entities show up for a specific situation and then they kind of drift away. Um, but yeah, other than that, for traditions, I really don't bring anything from Christianity. Most of the family traditions, while they occur around Christian holidays, they're not directly linked. So, like for Easter, it used to be a huge tradition for all of the family to go down to my grandparents' teeny tiny little town. Um, we would all go to church with my grandmother, to the Baptist church. I loved that church, and I sincerely was very sad when that church finally closed its doors. But yeah, that was one that it was more about, the positive aspects of Christianity. And in that church and the way that preachers, did his sermons, I could understand the appeal of Christianity. Um, so yeah, I was very sad when that little church closed. But yeah, so we'd get together, do Easter services, and then it was a huge deal, as it is here in Texas, to go do family photos out in the Bluebonnets. And then we'd have an Easter egg hunt and stuff like that. But the Bluebonnets are the ones that I remember the most, going out, doing photos in that. Not directly linked to Easter, but it's a family tradition that, was very, very strong for the longest. Um, but yeah, I really don't have anything else that I brought over from Christianity. Then going into Wicca, um, I was very much, and even now when people ask me if they're interested in getting into witchcraft and the occult and stuff like that, I still recommend that they start out in Wicca. Wicca, to me, gives an extremely good, solid foundation for getting into magic and working with deities and working with spirits, the casting of spells and stuff like that, learning how to do the rituals. Because you've got to crawl before you learn to walk. And I personally feel that Wicca gives a really good basis to work off of. And for some people, Wicca is perfect for them, and that's awesome. I will support you 100% on that. Uh, Again, the binariness, you have to invoke the god and the goddess. Um, that doesn't sit well with me. So I have since evolved into the practice that I do now. Very, very feral is the best way I can describe it, because whatever needs to be done, I can whip it up in a second and get it done. I don't have to have the huge elaborate tools and all the herbs and stuff like that. Um, but again, you need that basis to build that muscle memory on how to tap into the divinity, to tap into the energies that you're needing to tap into to actually cast spells, do rituals, and things like that. And I feel that Wicca gives an extremely good basis for that. Some of the Wiccan holidays I observe, trying to think which ones, namely Samhain, because that is a day to honor the dead. That is a day to leave food out for family spirits. I've gotten really into doing genealogy. And so generally I will print out my family tree and go through and invoke, or not necessarily invoke, because I don't know all of my ancestors and I don't know if they're good people. And some of them I know for a fact are not good people, and I don't want that energy to be invited in. So it's more of a naming of them, at least acknowledging that they had a part in creating me. But yeah, the ones I do know, I have no problem invoking in. They are usually invoked in, and given 24 hours, they have the entire time of Samhain to, just come and relax and kind of check in on us and see how we're doing. I do leave food out for them, but for the rest of for the bulk of the Wiccan holidays, they don't sync up with the seasons here in Texas, number one. Like my favorite is that the summer solstice is the peak of, you know, the the strongest point of the sun. This is when it's supposed to be the hottest, and we still have months to go before we're no longer in the hundreds, the 90s, the 80s even. With Samhain, I don't see that being the final harvest because it's very common here in Texas that on Halloween it can be 85, 90 degrees. It's still very, very hot. We have an extremely long summertime here in the state, or here in Texas. Um, so some of that mythos that goes with it, it just has no bearing here in Texas. Um, and I really don't like the the binary heterosexual myth that goes along with the Wheel of the Year, where the god and the goddess go through the seasons of life. Um, Goddess gives birth to the sun god and stuff like that. It just doesn't resonate with me. Um, I am in a heterosexual marriage. Um, I myself am bisexual. Um, I'm also not having children, and so none of that really speaks to me. And I don't require a myth to explain the seasons to me. Yes, I am a practicing witch. I also strongly believe in most of the science that's out there. So I'm okay with accepting just the scientific explanation of the seasons. I don't need the myth to go with it. Um, but yeah, so I'm trying to think what else from Wicca. Most of the traditional tools I do have. I have the athame, which is the magical knife, the wand. I generally do set up an altar, although now it's not nearly as aesthetic, um, because I just don't need that right now. Um, I love beautiful altars. Don't get me wrong. I love looking at people's altars. I love seeing the different personalities that come out with the way you make an altar, because an altar is a very personal thing. And so, like, even setting up the altars as, described in Buckland's book or by Cunningham, there's still parts of you that make it personal. So, like, what colors do you choose for the god and goddess candle? What incense do you choose? The dishes that you put the salt and the water in. What are you cooking and making for the cakes and ale? So yeah, there's still a lot of personal touches that you can put into those, and that I love. Generally now I just use working altars. So an altar set up for a very specific purpose. Um, like currently most of my altar is set up to honor the various spirits that I keep. Which we'll get into spirit keeping. Great fun stuff. I have a altar set up for Sekhmet. She is my matron goddess. That is the one that I work with the most and the longest. And then the Harpies have an area as well, because here in Texas, the weather can be very unforgiving, and making offerings to them tends to keep us safe. Um, well, I don't, and again, this is where the science comes in. I have faith that my Harpies will keep me safe, that they will protect my property, they'll protect my family, they'll protect my home. Does that mean I'm not going to do, if the tornado sirens go off, that I'm not going to go into our shelter area because I have faith that the Harpies will save me? No, I'm getting my ass in that shelter because I'm not going to test stuff like that. There's no reason to test stuff like that. Um, I'll have the faith, but I will do the mundane steps that still need to be done. Um, and I don't see that as making my faith less, or I don't have full belief and everything else in the spirits to do what they want to do. But it's like casting a money spell, or better yet, casting a spell to get a job, but not putting in any applications. The spells and the rituals and stuff like that are there to bolster and improve what you're doing in the physical realm. So are you going to get a job if you cast this job spell, but you don't go to any interviews, you don't apply for any jobs? No, I really don't. I don't care how powerful of a magician you are, you still have to do the mundane stuff for it to work. And I think that's another thing that I have shed from Christianity, because again, you're not supposed to test your God. You're not supposed to challenge him on anything. You're supposed to have full faith in everything that God's going to do for you, and so you can just, send off a prayer and he'll eventually, you're in the queue, he'll eventually get to your call. I don't subscribe to that at all. You very much have to do the work yourself, and the spellcraft and the ritual and the prayers and offerings and stuff like that improve your chances. But yeah, I think that's pretty much all that I brought from Wicca. But yeah, so my traditions now are from the great stay home time. I have really, really, really cut back on a lot of the pageantry that I used to do in my rituals. This was a very introspective time for me, in which I would look at the various things that I did in my spiritual practice and ask myself, do I even believe this? Does it work for me? What am I getting out of this particular practice? And if it's nothing positive, then I just let it go. I don't cast circle because, or I should say, most of the time I don't cast circle. There are times that I do because I want that pageantry. I need that extra bolster that it gives me. But I don't have to cast circle. Trying to think some of the other things that I've kind of let go. I mean, like I said, I don't observe most of the Wheel of the Year. I look more for personally meaningful days for myself. I have a snake as a pet. Her name is Leviathan. She's fabulous. I'll probably show her at some point. And so February 1st, I believe it is International Serpent Day, or International Snake Day. And I will celebrate that because, one, I love snakes. But it's also kind of a day for me to honor, Leviathan, and have her, just a little extra pampering. It is one of my big goals to go up to Churchill, Manitoba, and photograph the wild polar bear migration. Churchill is considered the polar bear capital of the world. Had to stop and think. But yeah, so that is one of my huge goals, is to be able to go up there and photograph that. So February 27th is International Polar Bear Day. And so that is a day that I reaffirm that goal. Because it's the trip that I want to take. is expensive. It's going to be about $10,000 for the trip itself. That is not including me getting from Texas to, I have to get up to Winnipeg, Canada, um, before the little plane that'll pick me up and take me to Churchill, which is a part of the package deal. So yeah, that is not going to be a very cheap trip. And so I do rituals to reinforce me being able to save for that, to be able to accomplish this goal. But it's not a holiday I see any other witches celebrating. It's very personal to me. One of the other things that I do is uh, on my birthday. Um, I celebrate, how many years I've been here, and I make goals at that point. One goal for every year that I am old. So if I'm 35 years old, I'm going to be 36 the next birthday that I'm going to, so I will make 35 goals to do in my 35th year. And it's just little things that I want to accomplish before I turn 36 type thing. I'm older than 35 and 36. We'll be honest. But yeah, so little things like that. Going into my neurodivergence, I am a recovering self-injurer. I used to do that quite a lot as a way of coping. It was very much a maladaptive coping strategy, but I would rather do that than unalive myself. We'll just leave it at that. So yeah, I have an anniversary date for that. The day that I decided I wasn't going to do that anymore. And let me say, this year will be 17 years. And so I go out and I buy the little birthday candles, the number ones. And so this year I will buy a 1 and a 7. And I burn those and, just kind of reaffirm that it was a practice that I needed at the time. It served a purpose at the time. But that I've learned other ways of coping. So I don't need that anymore. And generally I will take myself out to a very nice dinner, just it's a nice little celebration. But that's something that's personal to me. And that's what I think our faith, or at least my faith is reaffirming me as a person and making me strive to do better and be better. And, I don't have a problem cursing or hexing, but I use those as a last resort. I will try more benign um, ways of coping coping with the situation. Um, but if push comes to shove, I don't have a problem doing that. And I really think that for me, that's what I need out of faith is, obviously pushing me to be a better person. Because I can definitely improve. Uh, but at the same time, I'm not going to be pushed around because I think that it's going to make me a better person, if that makes any sense. Um, but yeah, so that's more of what my practice has evolved into. One other thing that I do bring from Wicca is honoring the moon phases. Um, I mean, gotta be a stereotypical witch and enjoy a good full moon. I enjoy them, they're beautiful. Personally, for me, my favorite phase is right after the new moon, that first teeny tiny little sliver that you can see of the moon. That, to me, that is my absolute favorite time. Uh, but yeah, other than that, you, if you looked at my practice, or if you sat me next to a Wiccan and had us compare notes on our faith and spirituality and actual ritual practices and spellcraft and stuff like that, it's so drastically different. But each one of those steps I needed to take to get me to where I am today. And in 20 years, who knows what my practice is going to look like. I love seeing how it evolves. I love seeing how other people practice. But yeah, because mine is always evolving. I'm always changing something new, or I'll come across something new and incorporate it into my practice to see if it works for me. And I really think that that's one of the great things of the more openness about religions. Um, Obviously, if it's a close practice, you leave that alone. Um, Unless you're part of that community, you have no business touching that stuff. But if it's an open one, then I see no issue incorporating stuff like that. Um, but yeah. So I'm curious to hear from anybody else. How has your belief system changed? Are there practices that you carry over from previous religions that you've been a part of, or are there things you incorporate into your practice that come from, other sources? Again, I love talking about how your spiritual practice has evolved. So yeah, I look forward to hearing from anybody else. Um, yeah, I think that's about it. So I hope y'all have a great day and enjoy it. And I hope whatever blessings you're needing, you get. Have a great day.